start the trial, and this one is on robotaxis and the need to be chipped. For many years, I've argued for privacy reasons that just like we chip dogs, we should be chipping people. In other words, everybody should have a chip. What I believe is that more recently is if we get robotaxis the way that Elon is thinking they're going to sort of take over the world, that need to be chipped is going to even become more apparent. So to be clear in this, everybody has a phone. And believe it or not, you're chipped already because you carry this phone around all the time. And the phone is carrying inside of it essentially innumerable identities for you. Sadly, those identities can be linked. So, for example, what you do on Facebook can get picked up by what you do on Twitter or X. It can be picked up by what you're doing on email, all vice versa. All these things can be linked, what stores you go to, what you shop for and bought, and all these other things. All that stuff right now can be linked by companies and governments. Most people don't realize that this is actually happening today. So for example, is a company that you can look up, and I've mentioned in my articles several times and in my books. Their name is Palantir, Palantir. Palantir is a company that basically specializes in privacy invasion, and they make a lot of money doing it. They will never tell you that they're doing that, but that is exactly what they're doing. They've been around a long time. I've known them since they started up, and I've been stunned that the way they make money is they consult for companies and governments. And their consulting is, what are their employees doing and thinking? So they're the ones who create the systems that allow companies to spy on their own employees, including their own employees' personal telephones. So when you work for a company, you will get these terms and conditions for working for the company. And basically, the company can do pretty much what they want in terms of spying on you. And you sign away any sort of rights on that. What you don't know is that the governments are doing the same thing on you. In Europe, there are laws, strong laws, that prevent this sort of privacy invasion. But in the United States and other countries in the world, those laws don't exist. And so the companies do what they want, and Palantir will obey the law. But there are other tricks to linking one of your identities with another identity that are not governed even by the European laws. And Palantir can pull that data. Plus, if you work for a company and the data doesn't escape the company, Palantir can still link up everything that you're doing. It's the way it is. The defeat against that is to have 1 million identities that you manage, and they do not get to manage your identities. So think of a chip, and I show in this article a picture of a chip. This is a 1 terabyte chip. And inside of this, it's called a PCIe. Inside of this PCI is a flash chip, about the size of that blue space there. is the actual chip. So you can see how small the chip is. And this is 1 terabyte of data. As you might imagine, it doesn't take much power to be able to read that. Everybody could have a 1 terabyte chip, and your phone could be the reader of that chip right now. So the phone can put this against this antenna against something, and your phone can be connected to some other device with the internet. And it could just similarly be near enough to you that it could read the chip that's embedded in your hand or wherever it's embedded. My argument is the mistake that everybody will make is that the companies and all these other guys will tell you only need one identity. It's up to you to tell them, no, I need 1 million identities and you can't know any of them unless I permit you to know them. And then what you're really doing is that you have one identity for Amazon that cannot be linked to your identity for pick something, where you go to school, or your contact list for Facebook. So your identities that you use for different things are completely separate. And the only way they can be linked is if they get that chip, which if it's embedded, it can't be linked. So the chip has 1 million globally unique identities. Every one of these identities in the chip, there's technologically, we do this today. The identities that are in the chip are such long random numbers, which is basically, it only takes a 32-byte random number, 32 character random number to be globally unique as long as it's random. And for the next 100 years, there will never be a repeat of that random number, even if you think you can come up with ways in which you can get that random number to show up again. It won't. That's crazy, but it's true. So you could be chipped and you get 1 million globally unique identities. And there's software, preferably in the chip, that associates identities with roles and rules on how those roles can be shared, how your identities can be shared, that you are in control of and nobody else is in control of. The interface for doing that can be very transparent. It doesn't require a lot. It requires no real technical knowledge, just the idea that I don't want anybody to know, to be able to link what I do on Facebook with what I do on email. Or you can even do role separations on what email servers you're using or who you're contacting. With 1 million identities, it'll basically last you for life without ever exhausting all the identities. You can just keep saying, I want to have a new identity in this particular situation. And if you ever feel like one of the identities is leaking information, you can grab another one of your random identities and now say, this is my new Amazon account. And Amazon cannot track that this is the same you through that Amazon account if it's done properly, which the system should be able to do that. So you get to control the linkage that is the privacy invasion. So it turns out robotaxis are going to have this problem. And the problem is that you'll be able to call in a taxi. What you really want to do is you want to call it in with a certain identity that can't be linked to anything else. So you want to control what the robotaxis know about you, even if they're getting payment, for example, so forth and so on. Furthermore, you want to be able to control things. If you put your child in a taxi, you want to know who that taxi is and who owns that taxi. Just a variety of other things that could get traced if your child disappears. Or somebody sends you an email and says, I've got your child. I want $10,000. Because the Robotaxi picked up your child that morning to take her or him to school and never made it to school. So we've got a problem with Robotaxis. And by the way, this could be your grandmother, okay? Or this could be, you have no way to know where they're taking somebody. You also have no way to know where they're taking you. This is a problem, and it can be fixed by having a structured situation where identities can be controlled, and the identities need to be globally unique, so that if the law says that this particular type of identity can be exposed by this particular type of investigation in the law, for example, a kidnapping situation, then the taxi and the owner of the Robotaxi can get a visit from the law on just exactly what happened without you ever having to investigate that yourself, and that information is basically instantly available. The Robotaxi doesn't run. So that's what this trial is about. And what I'm arguing is that the Robotaxis are going to make this very real, because people are going to begin to see that they can make money illegally. For example, drug guys will see that they can put drugs into a Robotaxi. And if there's not traceability, the drugs can just show up at whoever they're supposed to receive them, even if it's 300 miles away. So Robotaxis become a new way of moving stuff around and people around, so forth and so on. And if you don't have identity controls and a good identity management, we got problems. And we've had the problems for a long time. And that's one of the reasons I've been arguing for having 1 million identities being managed, and so forth and so on. So that's the essence of this trial. Yes, I sincerely believe this is true and will happen eventually. I am a world expert on this stuff. We put this kind of capability into storage devices at Seagate, and it is used to protect identities in certain situations. And of course, storage devices, as I said, they have plenty of storage to store 1 million identities, keep everyone separate. The other thing that most people don't know is this little tiny storage device, which is a terabyte, probably has on the order of 200 or 300 processors in it, real little computers. And each one of those real little computers that are in that little tiny thing can be programmed separately. These little devices can be extremely secure. So my argument is, yes, I sincerely believe this can happen. Is it the whole truth? I said yes. And my book on privacy gives more information on that. Is it nothing but the truth? I said yes. There was no deceit. Sorry, this is the solution. They chip dogs, don't they? Human chips should manage at least 1 million globally and eternally unique identities for every person on the planet. By the way, they're eternally unique. So you can actually will the knowledge of your identities to somebody if you die, so that they can keep a historical record of you and what you did, so forth, after you're dead. And you can have that filtered and so forth and so on. Everybody can be writing a book about themselves without even paying attention to it. Is the deceit or truth intended? I said it is intended. What's the motivation? The motivation is to be informative. I think it's acceptable. I think probably nobody wants to hear this, but they need to think it through. So the way to think it through is there's a million identities, and that means you just can't come up with a particular place to use an identity that's unique to that place or context and run out of identities during your life with a million. Now, you probably, some people could, but by the way, that same 1 terabyte chip, the difference in size between the 1 terabyte and a 4 terabyte is not a difference in the size of this PCIe card. It's a difference, a slight difference in the size of what that little blue area there is. The social acceptability of the truth or lie. I said this is true just because most people don't believe you can do this. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies will tell you they can't. You can't do this. Governments will tell you, people with vested interests will tell you can't do this. But if you know the right people to ask, they'll tell you you could do this. By the way, the key to understanding why this chip works is the same as the key to understanding why the dog chip works. This thing only has a little tiny antenna on it, same way dogs do, but that's a big antenna. So the chip would talk to your phone, which would do most of the heavy lifting. Although if you don't have a phone, the store you go to or whatever, or your laptop can do the same thing. The key is to keep the identity information inside the chip, the linkability of the identity information inside the chip. There's very easy ways to do that without exposing the identities to the external world, except in ways that are permitted under the rules, some basically pretty standard rules. So that's it. We're going to go through the individual jurors and get a 20 to 30-second summary of their verdict. And I saw a lot of don't know, which is, I seriously expected that. I'm glad I saw it. But I'm happy if somebody has a specific question on why this is possible, why they think it's not possible. I'd love to hear it. Juror 1?
I'm Juror 1. Do you want my code?
No, you're GHV?
No, I'm ZHV.
ZHV.
Yeah. Okay. I trust you, Bob, because I know how smart you are and what you say is true, but everything in me revolts against this. And even though I'm agnostic now, I was raised as a Christian, and something connects it to the mark of the beast, taking a chip. And I know we're chipped. My credit cards are chipped. My phone's chipped. Everything's chipped. But I reject it. I just totally reject it. I'm not saying I wouldn't be open to it, but it's just too much for me to absorb in my brain.
The problem is you're already cooked. Okay. The only escape route that I've been able to come up with is, some people will suggest escape routes. I'll give you 16 identities or 8 identities or something, where I promise you I won't link them up. What you need to realize is if you can manage in a way that nobody can ever see those identities, except they're in a chip and they never escape that chip, the actual identities that are known by the chip can never escape the chip. But there's a million of them and you get to manage them. Then you're taking away the beast. It's hard to believe, but what's critical is that there's a very large number of them. And each one is,
I think we're doing that with our identity now. Our information, which probably creates some kind of chip somewhere, is in all different places, wherever we do business or wherever we're on the internet. So to me, that would encapsulate it and protect it into your chip. Now I'm talking about the chip, what you're talking about would encapsulate it into that one chip. So it's not in all these other places where other
The
people
problem
can.
is that those places are controlling it. And you need to control it. You, as a human being, need to control your own identities.
And to me, logically, that this chip would replace all of that, where you have your identity all over the
They
place.
would allow the other people to do whatever they're doing. That can't be stopped. But they will not be able to get through the walls that you put up.
Breach your data.
They would
couldn't
not be
breach
able
it.
to link one of your identities to another one of your identities that you use. They
Is
would
this
not
your
be
next
able to.
project, Bob?
I actually have it's actually a project which we've completely defined, and we have a patent and so forth and so on. And it's a programming project. It turns out I need some people who want to do some programming to actually just program a phone, basically to manage those identities. And then I know the people that in the companies that could do this and how it would be done, but they need a demonstration. They need some reason to do it. Part of the problem is that exactly what you just said, Robin, which is everybody rebels against it, thinking that it's something that is actually the thing that protects you from. It just doesn't sound like it. How can a million identities be better than one identity? The answer is one can get linked by everybody, and a million that are unlinkable to each other, that cannot be guessed. That's how you protect yourself. You divide and conquer them, where they are putting you together based on the fact that you really only have a few identities. And so by the way, it makes all kinds of things it solves. And the book actually covers that in some detail. But yeah, so juror two.
Okay, that's me. I said it's a much better way than using a chip with a single identity. I was wondering, is there a way that somebody could create a program for the phone that will hack into it? Is there a way to be exposed that way?
No.
Okay, that's
So the right way to think about it is that the identities that you have on that thing, I'm just going to pick some numbers off the top of my 50,000 identities can be used by your phone, but you've got 950,000 other identities that phone can never know.
and there's no way to link you after you use your phone. It can link
Right.
back to that one identity.
You have to understand that the phone is linking 50,000 of your identities.
Okay.
And so make it 1,000. Pick a number. Okay. It's better than one. It's better than 10.
I do agree. That sounds,
And so as you grow up, you can actually say every year, I want new identities established for these different things. And all they're going to know is that, and again, it's based on rules. So what you did when you were a kid is not possible that they can go back and track on that.
How you have to set it up like passwords on the different things. Each identity will have a pass, or each thing they
It's
for
just
will have
that's like asking whether a dog has to know his password.
No, but all the different things it's going to be used for, how are you going to keep up with that?
So the way you do it is it goes in the chip, and the chip goes in your underneath your skin, and you know that chip is there. And then if you ever get that chip missing, you cancel everything that it did and get another chip that is now the chip.
So
And
you're saying we don't have to do, we'll just have to scan something and then if they get that information will be in there and next time we want to use the same thing.
it operates in an environment where if you say you want to be Amazon, it has to know that it's really talking to Amazon.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then I like the idea.
Yeah, it puts you in control, takes the control away from the authorities, except under proper law.
Okay, I agree. It sounds good. The motivation is to be informative, I put, and then I said maybe the author has a personal interest in this invention.
I always get patents on everything, so I get patents. And
I
so
hope it works out.
this is, well, so I don't really care. I've never been in this for money, but sometimes you have to be defensive. Okay. But I am looking, I've actually published the complete specifications for how you do this. I'm looking for basically somebody who wants to do the programming. I'm a very good programmer, but I'm way past doing the programming myself. Okay, so I don't think I've programmed in probably 15 or 20 years.
Maybe you should ask Grok.
Who?
They're supposed to be able to improve.
I don't think it's going to give me
I had
but
it
it
build me
probably
a
knows who
game.
they are.
Yeah, I had it build me a game, and they're really improving.
Oh yeah, it's just going to get better and better. You haven't even seen begun to see what these systems are going to do now. They've got the money to build the processors.
Thank you.
Yeah, Juror 3 or Juror 3?
That would be me. I'm Juror 3. Interesting, very interesting. As I thought the Robotaxi one was pretty interesting, pretty scary. I have to relate with Robin or Juror 1 on this one a little bit because my beliefs are firm, and when it comes to the chip, I'll be killed probably before I let someone put a chip in me, literally.
So you could, so if you wanted to, you could say, I want that chip in this phone. And by the way,
I have one in my phone. I have one in my phone and all my devices.
no, that does not have a terabyte in it. It's essentially a PCIe. It's one of these things. So I actually know how the chips in your phone are coded. And the guys who build those chips for your phone, like Gem Plus, for example, those chips are made to be very inexpensive. And this particular chip would cost, by very inexpensive, about two to 3 cents.
Yeah.
Okay.
The terabytes, so those cost a little bit more. Those
so this would be about a $5 or $6 chip. You could build such a chip that would be exactly the chip that is in your phone. So your phone would see it just as a phone chip. So here's where the chip goes into the phone. And it could be exactly, that is a PCIe chip. And instead of being a 78, you don't know what this is, a 7812 smart card chip, it would be a ISO something else identity chip. But it would make the phone work. So you could have it in the phone. I would prefer it to be in me because it would be harder to get from me. I've had a phone stolen. It took 20 seconds and this phone was gone.
I've been a victim of identity theft before and things like that. But as far as going to having it implanted in me, that's the negatory ghost. I cannot.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you don't have to have it implanted in you, but then you've got to make sure you don't lose that phone.
I lose them all the time for real. But
I know.
I can't do it. And I'm like, you're one, I trust your stuff and things like that, but I can't bend on the chip thing. The Robotaxi, that's another negatory because I deal with court cases and stuff, and most of my court cases deal with missing persons and things like that. And that it's scary all the way around when you think about it. I mean, that's why on my number warning,
it's only getting worse.
Yeah, and that's why on the warning question at the bottom of it, warning, no chips allowed. Yeah.
The reason I say I have this trial is exactly the fact that I know that most people absolutely don't want the chip. And most of the people think that 1 million identities is worse than 2. Okay. And it ain't. Or 1 million identities mean that.
I have more than one identity, but we're not going to bring those out right now.
So are we on 4?
We're on 4 now.
Yes, that's me. Hello. I feel like this Robotaxi doesn't really play a good role in society because it could bring a lot of danger in certain areas, and our online profiles, as you said, could be way too many, and it could also cause eruption in technology.
You're exactly right. So when I saw the Robotaxis, particularly Elon giving his vision of the Robotaxi, my privacy bells started ringing really hard, because all of a sudden you've got something that you don't own and control that comes to your house, and there's nobody in it, and you don't know who actually is controlling that thing. It can move stuff physically, which gets really scary about what could happen. And so I wrote this article partly to bring that up. And then you need something like this identity mechanism. And a robotaxi should also have a lot of identities. Now, what a device should have is going to be, but they should have unlinkable identities. So the robotaxi, the identity of the robotaxi to you is going to be different than the identity of the robotaxi, of that same robotaxi, to somebody else.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And but you can order the traceability of that robotaxi to the owner, to the person who controlled it. And you can get at that information, but nobody else can get at it, because only you knew who that robotaxi was for you. So it breaks the ability of the crooks to get away with what they do, where the crooks can be the government. So juror 5.
Hi, yes. Hi, everyone. On my end, I don't know much about chips and stuff, so it was a very new, I don't know, new way of thinking for me. I think while the idea also of using chips with multiple identities might seem like a solution for privacy concerns, I think it's quite important as well that there's consideration of potential risks and implications. I don't know if there could be any other alternative approaches that might be more effective in protecting people's privacies, but I think you quite elaborated everything clearly for me, because I wasn't really well versed on the topic. But yeah, that is just my opinion. I think
the way to really think about it from your perspective, I think, is to realize that other people, companies and people and governments and so forth, they're right now in control of your identities. And they very consciously know that. So the key is you have no control. And so the real solution has to be one where you are in complete and ultimate control that they cannot control. And
so
there is
it
a
wouldn't
technical way to do that.
Sorry about that. No, I just wanted to ask if like we now have a chip with multiple identities, wouldn't it now be possible to track people using one or more of these identities?
So remember, it's not one or more, it's a million. Once you get into that number, just stay in that number. Okay. It'll take you a year to figure it out. Okay. It took me a year to figure it out. It took me more than a year to figure it out. But the bottom line is that once you realize how many there are, you can now make them very specific. You can take an identity and make it last for exactly 1 day. You don't have enough days in your life to exhaust the number of identities you could make in one that last 1 day, and that are unlinkable to anything else you did.
No, thank you so much, Plaintiff. I think you explained that clearly for me. I'll definitely also try and read up more for myself on it. I think it's quite interesting.
So if you can get a hold of my book that's on privacy, how to get your privacy back, that whole book is a tutorial in this chipping thing in a million identities.
I'll definitely look into that.
There's a Kindle, I think there's a free Kindle version of it sitting there. Okay, juror 6. Juror 6.
I don't say a juror 6, Bob.
Juror 7. Juror 7.
Hello, I'm juror 6.
Oh, hi,
Okay.
Shay.
No, I'm juror 5. I'm sorry.
Sorry, please come in.
What's your number? What's your number?
Oh, it's H for horse, Z9. Oh no, I'm lying. It's actually the other way around. It's Z for zebra, H for horse, and then 9. So it's
So you're
ZH9.
6. Yeah, you're 6.
I'm 5. I'm 5. Am I not 5?
I'm
You're
5.
ZH. Yeah, so y'all just switch. So go ahead and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Sorry, my apologies.
the guy who said he's 5. Go ahead and give me your summary.
I think a lot of what the guy that's number 5 is me. And
Oh, okay.
I think it's interesting. I wrote a lot of it in my, but I think it seems like there's a lot that you have to test. There has to be a lot of testing with this because it just seems like such an original idea. Let me
It's really
find
not better. The key is a 2 to the 256, or it's actually a 256 bit number, which is 32 bytes, is 2 to the 256th power. That is a really big number. And if I generate a random number that's 2 to the 256th power, that random number will not exist for the next 100 years in anybody else's random number generator, period. The likelihood is so small, it's not even funny. It could happen, but it's very unlikely to happen.
Isn't there still a risk of a correlation attacks or unforeseen vulnerabilities?
That's the reason that the chip protects these. I call them roles. But a role can say, I'm going to be a hamburger nut for one day. That could be a role tomorrow. I don't want anybody in the whole world to know that I ate 10 hamburgers yesterday or today, tomorrow.
Got it.
And it's gone. Okay. After that day, that identity is never used again.
I understand the idea. I would need to see it in practice to understand the problems that it may have.
Yeah, there is no completely perfect solution because you can always be controlled, but this gives you control over whole realms that they are currently attacking that they can no longer attack. And you can know that certain identities are governed by certain laws.
I feel like, I'll be honest with you, my feelings right now, I'm getting anxiety over this. I think about this in a way, is the medicine that you're, the concept you're kicking more is worse than the disease. The internet seems to be just a problem.
This is not so this existed before the internet. They were doing this 100 years ago.
But you're talking about
the key is that electronics gives us a way out.
Robert, you're talking about using what you're coming up with for robot cars, which are not; those are very new concepts. So
I'm actually, the book was written before robot cars, but the bottom line is that the robot cars make a real serious case for this, which didn't exist before the Robotaxi concept existed. But there have been plenty of cases. The book covers a lot of those cases. And I think chapter 2 of the book, within 4 pages in the book, I say, the reason that you've lost all your privacy is linkability, the ability of other people to link one of your identities to another identity, like your social security number to your name. Okay, Juror 7.
Hi.
Hi.
I said it's a cool idea, but we don't actually know if it would work in real life. Also, there's no proof that robotaxis will definitely cause more kidnappings. It's more of a guess than a fact, in my opinion. And there's also a lot more questions that need to be asked. What about people's rights? What if somebody doesn't want a chip? Are there other ways to protect our privacy? And yeah, a whole lot needs to be considered before.
So what I said was that you could say that people don't have to be chipped in the sense underneath their skin, but they have a phone and that will do everything. The problem is that phone can get lost, or somebody can get possession of that phone and be you, which is what they can do today. But when it's chipped underneath your skin, they really can't get to it without you knowing about it.
I understand that, but I feel like it's just a bit invasive on like us as human beings. If you're gonna perhaps like in future if they're gonna force implants upon us.
But you want them to, because if those chips are built the right way, they take their control of you away from them. They give it to you. So it's a freedom mechanism. One of the things that most people don't know is that there are chips made for gamers, computer game people, that are implanted right here. So I'm left-handed, so this is between your thumb and your forefinger. And you could buy those chips today. You could go online and buy those chips. And they are implanted, and they talk to the game controllers. And the reason that people buy those chips is that they can sense your muscle movement before your fingers actually move. They can essentially sense your neurons before you actually can move your fingers. So you're a little faster as a gamer with these chips implanted. So there's actually a fair number of people that are chipped already with chips that are much more sophisticated than the ones I'm talking about, which sounds crazy, but it's true. So it's not like these chips aren't commercially available for chipping people, but they're just like dog chips. They're just made to be neutral to any other thing. You're A.
Yes, Robert, this is me.
Okay.
Should I give my code?
Yes, you're good.
7YP?
Yep.
My suggestion on this whole topic now is I do agree with the implant, but somehow I don't agree with it. What if it's have a side effect on your health, maybe the implant?
Yeah, this is the reason I talk about it is most people don't want this, and they don't realize why they should want it. But it will take, I'm sure we'll have to build some examples in phones. You could code a phone to do this right now, but the phone things would just be demonstrations, and where a lot of the use cases can be worked out by people, and people can play with it and see exactly how it would work and so forth and so on. And we do need to have that. We don't have an example or of a running program that they can download onto their phone so that they can see how this would work. But it's very doable. You could probably have a downloadable program. And I don't know, if I had the right programmers, a couple of 3 programmers, I could probably have it operational in 3 months.
So if we have a running sample, maybe, would you agree that most people are gonna take that chip?
Are going to say what?
If you have a running sample of the chip implant, would you agree with most people taking it or not?
I think once they understand the options and what this gives them, people will. And again, you have to think of it like when you chip your dog or cat. People do that all the time now because it allows them to find their dog or cat. Okay. And the cat and the dog, they don't know. It doesn't bother them to be chipped. But you can't let the companies or the governments define what are in those chips. The reason that I'm so public about this is everybody has to be educated. So when the government or a company tries to pull the wool over tries to stop the chip's ability to do what it could do,
yes,
which they will do, then you have to know it and you have to refuse it. You have to say, no, you've simplified things too much, or you've done such and such. And that's the reason we really should be able to have programs that you can play with that let you see what these things will actually do before. Those need to be distributed to everybody in the world so they can see how they can get their privacy back.
Yeah, with that, I agree 100% with you.
Okay, so this sounds good. So are there any other, it's been an hour. Okay, so I'm glad we had a few moderators this time, so this is great. There's no such thing as software that's not in testing. Windows is still in testing. If anybody thinks that Windows works,
Still
you
in
need to
testing.
try it.
We are still in testing.
We're all still in testing.
I have a complaint about Windows. I don't like it, and it likes to take over your computer. It just keeps popping up. You cannot shut Windows down. It annoys the crap out of me.
They know it.
Speaking of Windows, I know, right? But I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want your
Sure.
stuff. Leave me alone. It just
Hey.
keeps trying. I keep saying no because I'm stubborn, and it's just.
So there's something in Windows. Don't ever do this, but there's something in Windows called safe mode.
Oh man, I hate safe
And
mode.
I do have friends who only live in safe mode.
I hate
Wow.
safe mode.
I think they're naive.
That's funny.
Yeah, and safe mode don't get along with my phone that I have.
Well,
now.
they'll only do safe mode
It
and
does
opera.
that.
They're fooling themselves. I can name names. I'm not gonna do it. Okay,
I don't
so
like safe mode any mode.
we'll see y'all next week.
Okay, bye, 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 everybody.
Bye.
Bye.